Hello, good evening. Welcome to a very special night. This is going to be a night of script reading, behind the scenes gossip and memories. It's a night to laugh about babies kept in drawers, to laugh about electrocuting children, mental breakdowns and countless deaths. Oh, and one resurrection, of course. I'm Al Booth. This is the very special night. It's the 30th anniversary reunion of the Brittas Empire. Welcome along. As you can see, the cast are here. So before I introduce everyone, let's have a little scene set. Let's take you back 30 years, back to how times were back then. Slightly different, obviously, as was like a year ago. It first aired on Thursday, January 3rd, 1991. John Major was Prime Minister. Arsenal would go on to win the First Division title in the days before the Premier League. And leisure centres were still open. Imagine that, blimey. On the night of the first Brittas episode, Top of the Pops was still on. Gary Davis introduced the number one for the UK, which was... Any guesses? Any guesses? No. Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter by Iron Maiden.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought that either. The number one film at the box office was Home Alone, all the way back then. And then at 8:30 on Thursday, you could type 888 into CFAX, put on BBC One, and the Brittas Empire was on with subtitles if you needed them. Brittas Empire ran for 7 series between 1991 and 1996. There were 52 episodes, 2 Christmas specials. There was a Children in Need special, and there was a Royal Variety Performance show in 1996 as well. And it was all filmed in an actual real-life leisure centre, just on the outskirts of the New Forest at Ringwood Leisure Centre in Hampshire. So there you go. You're taking you back there now. And I have to say, none of the cast look any different. So let's introduce them. As you can see on screen, I'll start as you can see. John Carrigan's here, Tim Marriott, Russell Porter, Chris Barrie, Harriet Thorpe, Jill Greenacre, Mike Burns, Andrée Bernard, Julia St. John, someone in the background there as well. And I'm your host, Al Booth, for the evening. Hello, thank you all for being here, cast.
Hey,
Thank you.
hey. Great to be here.
Hi, everyone.
It would be very weird if you weren't, to be honest. We've got a script read to go through very shortly, and you've been doing a rehearsal. I have to say, the Brittas Empire, I watched it as a child, as a teenager, and then I've watched it again ahead of this. I didn't realise how surreal it was, but then watching the read-through with you guys, I understand why it was so surreal. It's just cool. You all get on brilliantly, don't you? Was it always like this? Can you take us back to the first time you all met up on set?
I think we always got on. We always had a laugh. It was such a joy to do. All our characters were so mapped out. There's nothing to want for, really. It was just great.
And was it always like this? Because all of you are just, it's like you go to the pub well, not at the moment, but it's like you've all just met last weekend or something.
Well,
we keep in contact.
7 years together, didn't we? So 7 years is a long time to really bond. And I think it just comes straight back the minute we see each other.
And we've kept in contact, haven't we?
Yeah.
It was like I say, it was quite surreal. It wasn't your typical 8:30 BBC or 8 o'clock BBC One sitcom, was it? It was, as I said in the aforementioned introduction, there were babies in drawers, Carole. There were children being electrocuted. There was Mr. Brittas running around trying not to behead someone with a chainsaw, all pre-watershed as well.
I think we blew the centre up 3 times.
Yeah, I was going to say
3 times.
Yeah.
I mean, the set
It
design
was all done with a smile, It was all done for a laugh.
It was. Well, we've got loads of questions and answers. Well, hopefully you've got the answers. We've certainly got the questions. People tune in watching tonight. But before we do that, I thought let's give everyone a treat. And having sat through the read through, I think it's probably best to get straight into it, isn't it?
I think so.
So this is Series 4, Episode 5, Playing with Fire, as seen on BBC One way back then. Take it away, guys.
Sorry. I've got a low battery. I'm gonna have to get an extension.
We need you. We need you.
This is the British Empire after all.
Yeah.
It's attention seeking. Laura's always been like that round the
Yeah.
centre.
Because we can't do the episode without her. It's impossible.
I was going to say she's got an integral part to this, isn't she?
Al, you asked the first time we met. The first time we met was at the BBC rehearsal.
Acton,
the Acton Hilton, and I remember signing in the reception area, and I saw oh, that bloke. Yes, it's that bloke. I wonder what he's doing here. And of course, it was Chris. And he walked up the stairs and he had a briefcase. And I thought, I wonder what he's doing here. And then I went up in the lift, all nervous, and 25, 26. And there he was sitting there being Chris. And so that's my first memory, June 1990.
Wow.
So I was that bloke to you.
Yeah, that bloke who was on the telly. Who is that bloke? Mind you, somebody's just put in the chat. I just noticed some of you have aged really well. I'm just wondering who this.
We've all filtered the hell out of this.
This is Lucy Smith, actually, speaking of the chat. Lucy Smith says, can you imagine Mr. Brittas trying to organise work meetings over Zoom?
Yes,
they are, Lucy.
terrifyingly good.
Yeah.
It's a dark time at the moment, I know, but hello. It's a dark time, but you get the impression that Brittas would be in his element with 2 metre distancing and face masks and stuff, wouldn't he?
Oh, he'd love it, wouldn't you?
To be honest, Mr.
No,
British
it would
should
be,
be
it would be
running our
5
country
metre
right now.
distancing,
Mr. British
5 metre distancing, and at least treble layer masks.
Yeah.
Covering the whole face.
You see, Mr.
think you
British
just
should be at
because
number
the
10, running the country. Done.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Oh yeah, Brittas would he'd go nuts in this situation. Brilliant.
Right, Julia's back. You okay, Julia?
Yes, power Zoom restored. Yeah.
Fantastic. Right. Here we go then. So from series 4, it's episode 5. It is Playing with Fire. Take it away.
Hi. Thank you. Hi, my name is Patrick.
That
30
was
years
sweet,
ago,
didn't it?
Everybody loved that.
my name is Patrick. 30 years ago, I worked at the most famous leisure centre in the world, Whitby Newtown Leisure Centre. My boss was a man that many in the industry still remember well, Gordon Brittas. I will never forget Gordon Brittas. It seems that many of you still remember him too. If so, then let us go back in time to that very centre to recall one of our most famous ventures. Imagine being back at Whitby Newtown Leisure Centre. It is early in the morning, and Mr. Brittas has just arrived in the centre. Upon hearing music from one of the halls, he enters to find Laura is working out on some arm lifting apparatus.
Ah, Laura, not interrupting you, am I?
Morning, Mr. Brittas.
Just a tad concerned. 3rd day of Energy Conservation Week and consumption's actually gone up.
Mr. Brittas sticks a notice by a light switch.
Maybe it's all the photocopying.
Oh, I thought a little survey might be helpful. If we get the staff to fill in one of these for every electrical item in the building, then I'll be able to know where the most cost-effective savings can be made.
Full 5 pages, is it?
Yes, I've combined it with a safety check to save paper. So if you can take them round and make sure people have got enough copies, you'll want to keep one back for yourself, of course, for the tape recorder.
Oh, good.
You want to move your arms up further than that?
Sorry?
To get the full benefit on your subclavius, you've got to stretch. That's it. That's good. In fact, that's very good.
You're not usually this early, are you, Mr. Brittas?
No. This is usually family breakfast time, but they're all down in Cornwall.
I thought you were taking your holiday next week.
I am, Laura. Unfortunately, Helen got a bit confused over the dates and booked the wrong week.
So they've gone on holiday without you.
Yeah, funnily enough, they made exactly the same mistake last year. Still, these things happen, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Laura moves over to another machine. Brittas adjusts the weights.
Please, allow me. There you go.
How are you managing?
Pardon?
Well, you know, for food and things. I just wondered if
You.
No problem there, Laura. Helen left the deep freeze packed full, pizzas mainly, but plenty of varieties so you never get bored.
Well, if you fancy a change, you're welcome to come round for supper.
Supper?
Tonight, if you like. Yes, well, you don't have to decide right away.
No, Laura. I'm very grateful. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I'll do the form for you.
Form?
For the tape recorder.
As Laura looks on in surprise, Brittas unplugs the tape recorder and takes it away.
I'll fill in the details. One good turn deserves another.
We're moving on to reception now, where Carole is baking cakes while Tim and Colin are looking on.
That smells good, Carole.
Oh, good. Would you like one, Tim? Ben's having a few friends round for tea this afternoon, and I don't like buying them from the shops.
Oh, very good. Hey, try one of these, Colin.
I won't, thank you, Tim. Yeast products have a rather unfortunate effect on the flaky skin under my armpits. I was wondering if either of you could help me out.
I
was wondering if either of you could help me out.
Is it me? Yes, of course, Colin.
Yes.
Yes, of course, Colin.
What can we do for you, Colin?
Have either of you been to the toilet this morning?
This isn't Brittas, is it?
Pardon?
Only I thought we decided we weren't going to cooperate with a bowel movement chart.
No, this is a personal project, Tim. I'm trying to get a realistic estimate for the raw material available for the methane generator I built in the basement.
And you want to know if we can...
I need a constant supply of material passing through the system. You see, I was hoping that the staff would...
I'm sorry, Colin. I'm a straight after breakfast man myself.
No. Carole?
I'm afraid I don't like the idea.
It's not compulsory, Carole. It's just that we all have to go. So why not channel it into something that creates energy and helps to save the planet? It's the special toilet at the end of the squash court if you change your mind, all right?
Oh, chocolate buns and a chat with Colin. It's days like these that make my life worth living.
As Tim and Colin leave, a young lady called Jennifer Pelham arrives.
Welcome to Whitby Newtown Leisure Centre. How may I help you?
Much to Carole's consternation, she introduces herself as Gavin's fiancée. Angie arrives and takes her up to see Mr. Brittas, just as Tim returns to a very confused Carole.
Who's that then?
No one. No one at all. It's just... Oh, Tim. It's so awful. Oh, baby.
And Carole hugs Tim tightly to her chest. Meanwhile, Angie informs Brittas about the situation, and the latter invites Jennifer into his office for a chat. There, Jennifer explains that the reason no one has seen her is because she's been away for quite some time. She expresses her fear that Gavin might have found someone else during that time. Observant as ever, Brittas assures her that is not the case.
I think we can reassure you on that score, Jennifer. In all the years here, Gavin has not so much as looked at a girl. Am I right, Angie?
Spot on, Mr. Brittas.
In the staff room, Tim is crying in Linda's arms after hearing the news.
Come on, Tim. Probably doesn't mean anything.
How could it not mean anything?
I've been out with lots of men who are engaged. I promise you it doesn't make any difference.
I just don't understand. How could he lie to me all these years?
Maybe it's a mistake.
What?
Well, maybe she's just confusing him with another Gavin Featherly. You know, she's got the wrong leisure centre.
Do you think so?
I think it's the only possible explanation.
Yes. Yeah, I suppose you could be right. Oh, I always overreact like this.
Then Angie enters with Gavin.
Got him. I thought we'd like to have a word with him before he goes up to Mr. Brittas.
What is all this? What's going on? Tim?
You've had a visitor.
Yeah?
Well, she has some story about being your fiancée.
Jenny? Jenny's here? Oh, God, I knew this would happen.
Of course, this is not the only thing going on, as Laura is finding out at this very moment. She approaches a door with a handwritten notice. Resources Recycling Unit. She opens the door and goes in. Colin is in the room, using it as a workshop. There is some complicated homemade machinery.
Colin?
Ah, Laura, just in time for coffee.
Mr. Brittas wants everyone to fill in one of these forms for each item of electrical equipment. Colin, what is all this?
It's a methane digester, Laura.
Yes.
It's my contribution to Conservation Week.
Colin hands Laura a cup of coffee.
You see, what I've done is bypass the waste pipe from the toilet upstairs so that it comes down here into this settlement tank here, where hungry enzymes eat up the material, producing methane gas, which in turn produces steam, which turns this generator and produces electricity.
He points to a small torch bulb at the end of the line.
I thought Mr. Brittas only said you should do a feasibility study.
That's what I'm doing, Laura. Finding out if it's feasible, and it is. I'm just going through the motions. As a byproduct, it produces water safe enough to make coffee with.
Immediately, Laura looks at her cup in disgust and puts it down.
That's wonderful, Colin.
We hear a flushing toilet.
You're in luck. You're going to see some action.
Oh, good.
After the flush, a tape recorder starts playing and Colin's voice can be heard on the tape saying,
Thank you for your contribution. Your waste products are now being recycled. Please call again soon. Now, we've got to wait for the material to work its way through the system.
Suddenly, the machinery chugs into action and the torch bulb eventually lights up.
And there you have it, you see, power.
It's not exactly the national grid, is it?
Which is why I am in the process of fitting a transformer, which will increase the power to domestic voltage. There's only one problem, Laura. There's not enough material coming through the system. I had a word with the staff, but most of them prefer to go first thing in the morning at home. I don't know if you have any suggestions.
Do you know, I'm going to have to leave that one with you, Colin.
Colin barely notices that Laura exits as he's looking up at the bulb almost reverently.
Domestic voltage.
Back at Mr. Brittas' office, we're waiting for Gavin. Our manager is still engaging Jennifer with his customary cheerful small talk.
So, both your parents are dead.
Then finally, Gavin arrives with clear reluctance and a tense Tim by his side. The meeting between Gavin and Jennifer turns out to be not quite the romantic reunion of long-lost lovers Mr. Brittas had envisioned.
I've got your fuse, Mr. Brittas.
Come on, Gavin. That's no way to greet a fiancé you haven't seen for 5 years. Give her a proper kiss. And don't worry, we've seen it all before, haven't we, Tim?
At that, Jennifer gives Gavin a big kiss that is not quite returned by Gavin. In fact, the poor man tenses up. But of course, Mr. Brittas did not see.
That's more like it. Right, now you two lovebirds are going to want to spend some time alone together. The restroom, I suggest, Gavin. And don't you worry about setting up the volleyball court. Tim and I will do that, won't we, Tim?
Tim, I'm...
Go on, off you go.
Before Gavin could say another word, Jennifer drags him out of the room, leaving Tim alone with Brittas.
Who'd have thought it, eh, Tim? Did you know they were engaged?
No, I didn't.
Well, he certainly landed on his feet, hasn't he? Beautiful, intelligent, and apparently rather wealthy. The ideal partner, I'd say.
Yes, perfect. It's absolutely perfect.
Timothy, do I detect a note of bitterness there?
Bitter? Why would I be bitter?
It may not be obvious to you, but to a trained observer, your body language is saying, I hurt. You're not happy about Gavin getting married, are you? Let me tell you something, Tim. I had a chum once. We shared a flat, just like you and Gavin. In fact, we shared everything together. Whenever he went out, wherever he went, I was always there with him. Then suddenly, without any warning, I came home one evening to find out that he'd gone to live in Borneo. Friendships are like that, Tim. Sooner or later, they come to an end. We just have to accept it.
But how could he do it to me, Mr. Brittas?
Tim, I think the best thing is for you to think how Gavin must be feeling. Think of how happy and excited he must be to be at the prospect of spending the rest of his life with someone beautiful and gorgeous and warm-hearted and who obviously adores him. Now, you wouldn't want him to miss out on that, would you? That didn't help him.
Tim bursts into tears.
I thought it might.
Back in reception, Carole and Laura are discussing the events of the day.
Another form from Mr. Brittas, I'm afraid, Carole. He's worried about saving electricity.
Oh, I'm all for that, Laura. I try and save what I can, which is why I have a microwave.
Carole opens a sliding door of a cupboard to reveal the microwave.
I didn't know you had a microwave.
Oh, yeah, it uses 70% less power than a conventional cooker, Laura. We have to worry about the world's resources. Do you know, I sometimes have nightmares about the kind of world that Ben and the twins are going to grow up in.
Yes, it worries me.
So I always try and use a full load in the washing machine. Always on the economy setting.
Another door under the desk, revealing a full-sized washing machine.
You have a washing machine?
Oh, a washer and dryer, Laura. The babies, you know.
I thought there was only one PowerPoint behind there, Carole.
There is.
With that, Carole opens the door to reveal a mass of adapters and plugs.
Ah, you use adapters.
Yeah, so it's just the one form then.
I think we'll miss you out of this one, Carole.
Okay.
As Laura moves to the end of the desk to check out something, Angie enters.
Excuse me.
Yes, Angie.
Oh, I just got a message from the taxi driver, and he wondered if the young lady was ready. Only the meter is still ticking away.
Oh, that must be the taxi for Gavin's fiancée. I'll just see if I can locate her.
Carole moves to pick up the phone.
Did you say Gavin's fiancée?
Yes, she came down from Heathrow this morning.
She's rather wealthy, which is really lucky for her. And you know, the driver said she's got about 240 quid already.
Gavin has a fiancée?
Yes, she's in the staff room. I was just going to give her a call.
Before she can, Laura presses down the telephone receiver.
Let me do this.
Laura finds the couple in the staff room. Gavin and Jennifer are sitting at the table looking through advertisements for houses. Gavin is looking uncomfortable. Jennifer is intensely interested. We're told the taxi is waiting. Jennifer wants to use it to go to look for houses right away. Gavin signals to Laura for help.
This afternoon? I thought you were on pool duty.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that. Mr. Brittas is very strict about that sort of thing, Jenny. Isn't he, Laura? Nobody's allowed to make any changes to the timetable.
Determined to get her way, Jennifer leaves to talk to Mr. Brittas.
Gavin, what the hell is going on?
Laura, please.
Are you seriously telling us that you are engaged to that girl?
Well, technically, yes.
Technically? What does that mean?
It's complicated. It's not easy to explain.
Well, I think you should try. Let's start at the beginning, shall we?
Well, it was all a long time ago, Laura. I've been sent away to relations in Derbyshire. There'd been a bit of trouble at the local gym. There was a court case. Anyway, I met this girl.
Jenny,
Yes, and we seem to get on really well. You know, we like the same sort of things. And anyway, on my 19th birthday, I asked her to marry me.
Just like that?
Well, it had a lot of advantages at the time, Laura. Anyway, before anything had happened, she had a relapse and got sent back to the mental home, which is where she's been ever since.
I'm sorry, Gavin, if you'd rather not talk about it.
Oh no, I don't care who knows anymore.
Immediately, the door bursts open. Angie, Linda, and 2 others, including me, march in and sit down.
It's okay. He says he doesn't care anymore.
What sort of a mental home, Gavin?
Well, it's a private clinic in Scotland.
And she's been banged up there for 5 years.
You haven't seen her?
Well, I wrote to her. The doctor said it was important, so I wrote every week.
But you didn't tell her about Tim?
No, I didn't.
I think you ought to, Gavin.
Oh, how can I, Laura? She just told me the whole reason she's cured is that I've given her something to live for. If I let her down now, she'll be right back to where she started off. I don't know what to do.
Gosh, it's not easy, is it?
Meanwhile, Mr. Brittas is still counselling Tim.
Oh, I mean, there's something rather impressive about it, isn't there? A young, full-blooded male whose fiancée goes away for 5 years and he doesn't so much as look at another woman. And it can't have been that easy, can it? I mean, there's temptation everywhere. We all know that. And from some very attractive ladies. I suppose the best thing to do, Tim, is remember that while our loved ones are away, a promise is still a promise, and we will have to face them when they get back. When they get back from Cornwall in a week's time.
Mr. Brittas quickly drafts the note.
I wonder, would you mind taking a little note to Laura for me? It's just that Gavin has reminded me of a rather important principle. So, if you could just give this to Laura, with my regrets, of course, and I hope she isn't too disappointed. Could you do that for me?
Yeah.
As Tim leaves, Jennifer enters to ask Mr. Brittas to give Gavin the afternoon off, which, as we all know, is impossible in the world of Gordon Brittas.
Whoa. I'm afraid our timetable is delicately balanced and poised to give a structured duty roster of shared responsibilities, Jenny.
Absolutely impossible.
We never make changes to our timetable.
Mr. Brittas talks on, and unfortunately for him, he fails to notice that as he speaks, Jennifer twitches several times and goes into a kind of a trance as she leaves his office. Something is very wrong.
If you have any other problems, Jenny, just come back and tell me, right?
Meanwhile, Laura catches Colin sticking a notice on the door of the ladies' toilet saying, "Danger, radiation leak."
Ah, Colin, the very person.
Yes, Laura?
There's a notice on the staff room lavatory that says, "Danger, 50,000 volts."
Ah,
There's another one in the main toilet block that advises the public not to sit down because rodding is in progress. What's it all about, Colin?
well, it's part of a little subterfuge I've been putting into effect, Laura. You see, I'm trying to channel all the lavatory usage of this centre through the toilet at the back of the squash court. That way, you see, all the material ends up in my...
Methane digester, yes.
It's in a very good cause, Laura. I calculate this entire leisure centre could be self-sufficient by February if only everybody pushed.
Yes, I think we know what you want us to do, Colin, but I would be grateful if you left the staff ladies out of it.
As Colin leaves, Laura notices 3 suitcases by the reception desk.
What are these, Carole?
Oh, yes, the tennis.
Well, they can't stay here. I'll take them in the...
Laura tries to pick up one, but it's too heavy.
Good grief! What has she got in here?
I think it's...
What?
Yeah. I know
Looking worried, Laura opens the case.
It is petrol.
Carole joins her as Laura swiftly opens the other cases.
What has she got in the others?
Oh, Laura, I really don't think we should go through.
Firelighters and kindling.
It's extraordinary what people think they need on a journey, isn't it?
Meanwhile, Jennifer is in Colin's Angie recycling room. She's placed a pile of wood shavings in the middle of the room, and she is lighting a match. Colin enters and warns her.
You don't want to use a match, not down here. You could cause a very nasty fire doing that.
Hearing this, Jennifer becomes rather interested, and Colin cheerfully obliges her.
Oh, it's an arsonist paradise down here. Full of combustibles. It's not just the wood shavings and the oily rags, you see. It's the oxyacetylene cylinders, cans of paint, old newspapers.
Believing the ruse that Jennifer is looking for a lost earring, Colin happily shows her his invention, grateful for her interest in all its dangers.
Of course, it's more impressive when it's actually working. We are rather dependent on whether anyone upstairs... I'd set it going for you myself, but I've already... I don't know. I could give it a shot. Tell you what, I'll go upstairs, give me 5 minutes. No, you better make that 10. And then when you hear the flush, you just keep your eye on that light bulb.
As Colin goes to do what he needs to do, we return to the reception. Carole is present as always, icing her cakes. Mr. Brittas comes down the stairs.
What the hell is going on here, Carole?
Mistress?
There's a notice on my executive washroom door saying, beware acid spillage. When I come down to the toilet on the floor below, by which time I'm in no mood for jokes, I see another notice saying, no entry, adverse weather conditions. And there's another one.
I think it's Colin, mistress.
Colin? I might have known it. Where is he?
The Resources Recycling Centre.
Where?
You remember, you said he could have that little room between the boiler and the pool chemical plant.
I said he could be buried in it, Carole. And when I find him, he probably will be.
With that, Mr. Brittas marches off, leaving Carole washing the icing off her keyboard in a bowl of water. We return to the staff room where Gavin is confronted by Linda and Laura.
It all comes down to her parents, you see.
It's always the parents, isn't it? Glad I didn't have any.
What about the parents?
Well, they died when she was 16. Their plane crashed when they were flying out to the Bering Straits to rescue a dolphin trapped on the ice there. They did a lot of that sort of thing, flying around, saving dolphins.
It can't have left a lot of time for Jenny.
No, not at all, really. That was the problem. The doctors say that when her parents died, it set up this conflict in her mind. On the one hand, she felt really angry because her parents had left her again, but she couldn't express it because everyone kept telling her what saints they were.
So she blotted them out of her mind.
Yeah, the amnesia, right. But she still had the anger, and she couldn't let it out in any normal way,
So she set fire to things.
An arsonist?
Yes.
Just as well she's cured now, isn't it?
Gavin, do you know what hospital she was in?
Why?
Well, I think it might be an idea if you gave them a ring.
And we're back in the basement corridor. Things are heating up in more ways than one. A furious Brittas enters looking for Colin. Instead, he finds another sign on the toilet door.
I'll kill him. Where are you, Colin?
Stalking on, Brittas turns a corner, where there are several small fires in the corridor. As he stares in surprise, he sees Jennifer coming out to the Resources Recycling Unit with some more stuff to put on the fire.
Good grief. Oi, what are you doing?
Jennifer ignores him. She goes back into the room. But before following her, Brittas tries to put out the fire with his foot. but instead his foot catches fire and he hops around in panic.
Help! 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 Help me! Help! Help me!
In the staff room, Gavin has just ended a very important phone call. We join him as he tells Laura and Linda all about it.
You're absolutely right. She's not cured at all. She was on day release to visit an aunt. They've been trying to trace her all day.
Gosh, what do we do now?
Well, they're arranging a private ambulance. The doctor's flying down by helicopter. He'll be here in an hour.
Well, I think we should keep an eye on her all the same. Where is she?
Colin enters.
I wonder if anybody could do me a favour.
Later, Colin. Has anyone seen her since you went to Brittas's office?
I'm looking for a volunteer to use the downstairs toilet.
That was a quarter of an hour ago. She can't still be there.
I rather overestimated my own capacity, and I had promised the young lady.
Colin, this is important.
Young lady?
You mean Jenny?
Who's Jenny?
Long red hair, check jacket?
That's the one. I've promised her.
Where is she?
In the basement.
Right. Linda, you and I will go down and keep her in conversation. Gavin, you better put those suitcases somewhere she can't find them.
Yes. Oh, and Dr. Baumberger said the important thing is not to let her get upset or frustrated.
Absolutely. We mustn't let her get angry. Where's Mr. Brittas?
All thinking the same terrible thing, they run out of the staff room. Down in the basement, poor Mr. Brittas finds himself in a rather precarious situation. He's been physically inserted into Colin's machinery by Jennifer. There are iron bars securing his neck and hands. Jennifer is in quite a state, dirty and very angry. She's holding an iron bar and keeps hitting the machinery, narrowly missing Mr. Brittas. Meanwhile, Colin, Linda and Gavin and Laura run down the corridor and enter the room, just in time to see Jennifer break down. As Gavin leads his fiancée out, we gather from her ramblings that her memory might have returned. Meanwhile, the others turn their attention to a traumatized and twitching Brittas.
Are you all right, Mr. Brittas?
Just get me out of this thing, please, Laura.
Quite a
Colin and
girl,
Laura.
wasn't she, Mr. Brittas?
Colin and Laura try to remove his restraints, but cannot.
Quite a strong girl, wasn't she, Mr. Brittas?
We're going to need a hacksaw, Colin.
Right-o, Laura. Don't worry, Mr. Brittas. You're quite safe now we're here.
But as Colin speaks, there's a sound of a toilet flushing. Seconds later, Colin's voice comes over the tape.
Thank you for your contribution. Your waste products are being recycled. Please call again soon.
The machinery grinds into action, with Colin and Laura staring in disbelief. As the generator starts working, Gordon starts shaking. A blue glow engulfs his body and his hair stands on end. Then, well, I'd rather not say. Moving swiftly on, a few hours later in Brittas's office, a barely recovered Brittas, still twitching, is sitting at his desk. His hair is still on end and his face is all aglow. Laura enters.
The ambulance is leaving if you want to say goodbye.
Not particularly.
Dr. Baumberger has asked me to tell you how grateful he is.
Grateful?
Apparently, at the hospital, they've been trying to get Jenny to release her feelings like that for years. They could never make her angry enough. They say it's a real breakthrough for her. All these years, she's been trapped in her past, and now suddenly she's free. And it's all thanks to you.
Me?
The doctor said he'd quite like to talk to you about it sometime. Find out how you did it.
Is he?
He said you have a very special talent.
Well, Laura, I mean,
Oh,
just,
I got your note, by the way,
sorry?
about not wanting supper. That's fine. No problem.
Poor Mr. Brittas. It looks like he rather regrets writing that note now. Deciding he wants to see Jennifer, after all, he joins Linda, Tim and Gavin for a chat at the front door as the ambulance drives off.
So, they're taking her back to the clinic, are they?
Not for long, they think.
Yes, the doctor reckons she's well on the way to recovery.
It's like a miracle.
Mr. Brittas, I don't know how to thank you.
It's all right, Gavin. Think of it as an early wedding present.
Oh, there isn't going to be a wedding, Mr. Brittas.
That girl is depending on you, Gavin. You can't just cast her aside because she's mentally unstable.
No, it's not that.
Some very successful marriages are to mentally disturbed ladies. At least you have the advantage of knowing beforehand and not finding out 2 days into the honeymoon.
I'm sorry, Mr. Brittas. I just couldn't go through with it.
You have to. You made a promise, Gavin Featherly, and you can't go back on your word.
Believe me, Mr. Brittas, if things were different, there's nothing I'd like more,
But all his regret fades as soon as Gavin hears Tim calling him from the car.
Are you ready to come home now, Gavin?
Oh, thanks, Timmy. It wouldn't have worked.
A very happy Gavin goes off with Tim, but Brittas still doesn't understand.
There's few more depressing sights in this world, Linda, than a man going back on his word.
I think you're wrong, Mr. Brittas.
What?
About Gavin and Jenny. I don't think people can always decide what's the best thing to do just by a set of rules. Life's more complicated than that. The only thing any of us can really do is what we feel is right in our hearts. It may not be the easiest thing, but I think following our hearts is the only chance any of us get to find real fulfillment and happiness. Well, that's what I think anyway.
Clever Linda. That was a very wise message. Even the strict Brittas is moved by her words and decides, for once in his life, to break his own rules. Quickly, before he changes his mind, he enters the staff room. We find that Laura is in the shower, humming to herself. Completely oblivious to this, Brittas comes into the room and starts talking to her.
Is that you, Laura?
Oh! Mr. Brittas.
I wonder if that invitation to dinner is still on.
Sorry?
I wondered if I could change my mind about supper.
What, you mean tonight?
If that's all right, yes.
Yes, that's fine.
Excellent. What time would you like me to come round at?
A mildly annoyed Laura pops her head out of the shower.
Could we talk about this after I finish my shower, Mr. Brittas?
Right, okay. I'll wait outside and we can talk it while you're getting oh, that's beautiful. And we can talk it over while you're getting dressed.
A happy Brittas sets himself on the bench. A happy Brittas sets himself on the bench, looking rather hopeful for a change. The end.
Hey.
Brilliant. Well done.
By a wing and a prayer.
That was amazing.
It was so lovely to be those people again.
Yeah.
I was going to say, does that take you back?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Straight away.
I think a lot of people loving the fact that Russell was enjoying it with actually, like someone said before in the rehearsal, he was there. You were in the episode. Russell was enjoying it like it was the first time he'd seen it.
Absolutely.
Oh, Timmy, you're right.
I'm fine, thank you.
Love you, Timmy.
Yes, you have some ways of showing it. I'm telling me you're engaged.
Stop, boys,
Completely vacant for the last 30 years.
Do you know what, as well as silly as the Brittas Empire was, brilliant. The writing is just amazing, isn't it? As silly as it was kind of groundbreaking in that relationship between Tim and Gavin, wasn't it? In terms of this openly gay relationship on the screen without any. It wasn't like cartoon camp or anything like that.
And it was also totally normal. And the only one who didn't know was Brittas, and everyone was completely fine. It was never an issue.
No one commented on it or anything.
No.
And they didn't beat you over the head with it, did they? It was just natural for us.
That was why it was so wonderful.
Yeah.
We were very lucky, very fortunate.
We were saying as well.
Pauline the milkman.
Yes, Pauline the milkman. Yes.
Oh yes.
With the beard.
Yeah. Colin's girlfriend. Yeah.
He doesn't know, does he?
I
He was
forgot.
a nice actor.
Yes, he was.
So I know this is. I mean, we're talking 7 series and 52 episodes. I know it's going to be a very vague question, but is there a moment that stands out, either an episode or a particular scene that stands out? And you can all. I won't go around the room, but of course, jump in.
There was one that I remember when it was set in the future. And that
the one set in the future was great. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And then you look back now.
Was that a Christmas special?
Yeah.
Her daughter had been eaten by a shark.
Oh, I love that one.
That's my favourite line in the whole series. I'm afraid your daughter's been eaten by a shark. In a home county's leisure centre, it's just not what you expect.
He was a good actor as well.
God.
And Seb changed the railing.
Sebco changed the railing. That's good. Yeah, I changed him up tonight.
Yeah.
Sorry, Julia. What was your scene?
So the wedding ring of Mrs. Holroyd. That was another brilliant episode. So it was just so clever. I mean, as I said, when we were all emailing each other, these are so funny. I mean, all these years on, and they are so funny still. I was reading them for the first time since we'd done them, and I was laughing out loud. The writing is just so clever and complex and layered, and all the things we want but very rarely get. And it's great.
Yeah.
And it's so off the wall, just the emu episode where the emu terrorised everyone in the centre. I love the emu.
Yes.
That's where Jill gets her gun out.
Was there any? Because it was so outlandish, wasn't it? Like it was strange because it was never. It was so over the top without you ever thinking this wouldn't happen. You can kind of almost see things because of the characters and the cast and that happen. Was there every time when you thought, "Oh, I'm not sure about this"?
No.
Of all the executions.
No.
None of
just
that.
thought, bring it on.
Love them. The death toll was what, about 10?
There was a lot of death, wasn't there? Yeah.
There was lots of electrocutions when the kids held hands in that circle.
Yes.
And they got electrocuted. That was wonderful. Sorry to say that.
And there was also somebody trapped in the pool. Wasn't there someone trapped in the pool and we shut the centre and all went home underneath?
It was the best man. Best man, yeah.
Your fiance died, Hattie. Yeah, Carole's fiance died. A few of them. Yeah.
The aliens. Do you remember the aliens?
Yes, and all the shots, the pustules that everyone had.
No, it was a block of piss that had fallen.
Oh yes.
Fallen
out of an aeroplane.
Yeah.
And then he crashes into everything till he dies. Yeah.
And I love when Colin was in the swimming pool and his diving suit blew up and he spoke with helium and just ran in circles. That was amazing. That was amazing. Yeah.
Was that the same episode where Colin goes, it must have been the Maris Papers, Mr. Brittas?
Yeah, it is.
Well have been.
And you were training.
That's why I died. You buried me.
Yeah, we.
Yes, were you captured by pirates?
Oh yes. Yeah. We all went.
Yeah. We buried you. I was the vicar.
Mike did his wonderful Good, Bad and the Ugly tribute. Yeah, brilliant.
The sound team. Look, the sound team.
Also, you've got Mike Stevens.
Yay! Bailey.
Ian Head
And
and
Ian.
Bailey as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
everyone. Oh,
It seems like it was such a not just the cast, obviously, but a warm set throughout.
It was family.
It was the show. One of the great things about the show is the whole company was like as one. Where sometimes you can get a little bit of separation between crew and cast, but on Brittas it was very definitely all one company, particularly on location.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah.
Now there were two endings, obviously. Sorry, Mike. What was that? Just like I'll go back. There were two endings, weren't there? There was the first
Mike
ending.
Stevens, did you say Mike was there?
Yes.
Yes, sorry, yes, he's watching. Yeah.
Yes, dear.
Oh, he's gone.
Gone into shock.
No.
He's gone to meet him.
I didn't realise he hated him so much. I didn't realise.
Mike's getting on to his agent. Mike's doing a good job.
Yeah, so the series. I don't know where to wait till Mike comes back. We don't know where he's gone.
He'll be back in a minute.
I'm looking for him, isn't it?
Kempton.
It's probably recharging the power grid.
Look at that.
That's a euphemism from now on, isn't it?
Chris, what do you used to call the lighting guy? The Prince of Darkness. That was what
Harry.
you called him.
What's his name?
Oh,
Harry.
Harry.
Oh, it was Harry before Martin.
That's
Martin
right.
Kempson, who's just said hello
Martin,
to us at the bottom of the
Martin's
screen.
here.
And hello to you, Martin.
Martin, hello to you.
But no, before that there was Harry, yeah, who would he'd always try and use a reflector, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
Forget about the lights. We'll try and reflect it, or something like that. But he but no, I mean, a great company. He always took jokes, our silly jokes about him, and you know, Martin was the utter professional.
Yeah.
Who you wouldn't want to say too much about the lighting, otherwise he'll as he's already said, the women look beautifully lit and men look like shit. We'll improve next time.
That's not the lighting.
In fact, Martin lives quite close to me. I'll get him to come and like me next time. See you later.
In the next 30 years.
Yeah.
Nick Gibbs on Facebook says all the staff at the Real Centre in Ringwood say hi. Thanks for the memories. And this is a great question. Adrian Watmouth says, who played the most practical jokes on set?
Julia.
Me, did I?
No, because there were never really any practical jokes, but you would put hats around, and there was a hat. Like when we used to have the names of our characters, you'd leave them sort of here and there in studio.
I abandoned my hat very early on. Remember those terrible caps?
Yeah.
That wasn't going to go. That wasn't going to last until the first episode, let alone first series.
With our names on it.
Make Whitbury great again.
Marwa.
Oh,
Marwa.
Rodri has asked a question which, given the reading we've just had, I don't know if you can single one out, but what was the hardest scene to film in terms of corpsing? Can you remember?
Every
The
scene.
electrocution, it was hilarious. With the blue light, and it was absolutely hilarious. And then what makeup had done to Chris, with his hair was standing on end and he was all pink. It was absolutely hilarious. I look at it now and it makes me laugh, roar with laughter now. It's really funny. What did you say, Colin? You weren't there. Mike?
Yes. Sorry, Ken.
Colin.
I've got that sound.
That'll do. Yeah.
Also, when Brittas would call a meeting with all the, with all the staff,
yeah.
the staff meeting, we'd always corpse in those scenes, always.
Yeah.
They were great. The staff room scenes.
Oh, so fun.
They're our favourite, really, weren't they? Yeah. Hilarious. Colin was always late.
Did you get to keep? I see, Harriet. You've got obviously baby Ben with you.
Well, he's 30 now, but yes.
Yes.
That's actually my grandchild.
Great.
My
Oh, is it?
grandchild
Oh.
now in the centre. Yeah.
Right, in the drawer. Did you get to keep any props? Is there any keepsakes that you particularly fond of? Probably more.
remember, I
Yeah,
mean,
of
Why
course.
would you
Russell.
want to? They're all primary colours.
Look at Tim.
Look at Russell.
Russell.
Russell,
with his
I'm
ad.
not wearing a shirt. I'm not wearing a shirt.
that was that episode when I had a green leotard.
Macho Max.
Macho Max.
I think
Oh my God.
we all
That's
kept
terrifying.
our memories, really. And
Well,
certainly
yeah.
some of our clothes were lovely, and we got to keep them afterwards, didn't we?
Yes.
That's very good.
I must admit, I kept the badge. I don't know if I can say it here. The badge that didn't say
Crazy enough,
Bree Newtown. Yeah, I kept the badge that said "Shit, Bree Newtown Leisure Centre," and I've got that.
I threw my Marks and Spencer stuff away. I thought I didn't want to hang on to that.
No.
We didn't
I
even
threw it.
know
I
too
didn't throw it
much.
away. I gave it to charity, darling. So yeah.
Cool.
I got a
Every time I
white
put on a blazer and grey flags, you people say you just look like Mr. Brittas with not much hair. So
I had a tree from the episode when you went to heaven, Mr. Brittas.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and there were those white trees. I took one of those home and had it as a Christmas tree for years.
Brilliant. Well done. Just going back to that, actually, that particular episode, because is it right that was meant to be the final episode? Obviously, it's hard to come back from death, although obviously you did. And then the show continued. Yeah, of course. Yeah, it was the theme, wasn't it? Was that originally planned to be
Well,
the final?
he was booted out, wasn't he?
You'd have to ask Mike. Mike, ask
No, I
Mike.
don't think so.
No, not you, Mike Stevens.
Brittas knocks on the coffin, doesn't he? We hear him knocking as we're lying him down.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. Is there's a lot of people online saying it was the last episode, and then you came back, and then there was the dream sequence. But you got kicked out of the pearly gates, didn't you, Mr. Brittas? You know,
They didn't want him.
no.
yeah, no. Yeah, I could have knocked a few heads together up there. I can tell you now. Given a lot of disorganised goings on up there. I'll tell you that now for fun. No, look, I mean, we'd all.
Please.
Yeah, well, my calling is coming. I think. Look at the tail.
Yeah, come on.
Please, Miss Briss.
Would you ever bring back? We want to, don't
Sounds
we?
bad.
We want to bring
Yes.
back. Yes, please.
Bring back Brittas.
Somebody's
Bring
got
back
to.
Britain.
Somebody
Well,
recorded a
look,
wonderful song called "Bring Back Brittas," which I will put online for you all.
Oh, great.
Wow,
Fabulous.
You.
wonderful.
No, not me.
Ah.
A wonderful friend of mine.
Great.
Oh, look. Hey.
Oh.
There you go.
There we go.
I did some couple of years ago. There was a chance that we were gonna maybe get on Children in Need, and we were quite close to it because a guy I know, I used to play football with. He was one of the producers for Children in Need, and I think we got quite far before some person came along and said, "I don't think we will." So I mean, there's been positive thoughts about doing Brittas again, but it's just never really quite got there. And of course, you've got the writer Andrew, Richard, I think it is. Who I don't know. I don't think he and any of the broadcasters that he's been in discussions with can quite agree on how Brittas would come back. So,
Do you remember in the last two series we had a group of 6 writers writing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Terry and others.
That's
yeah,
right.
and Chris.
Terry Kyan, Mike Walling, Tony Millen.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think never say never.
Never say never. No.
Do you think it would work now? Because even just that read through, and when I've been watching it recently, there are things I laugh at, and I think, I don't know if I should be laughing at this.
A lot of it doesn't seem so PC, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I think because it would be back in its new form, and we'd all be
Mental
older,
health,
and my
yeah.
grandchildren would be in, the drawers in the cupboard. We'd all moved on. And Russell and I did a few little things, didn't we, Russell?
Yeah, they were great fun.
Trying to get Brittas back
Yeah.
with, to take over the world. And we worked out that everyone had moved on. Laura had become a counsellor and was in San Francisco.
Mhm.
Jill, where were you, darling? What were you doing? You ran a
I don't know.
a
I'm going to
vegan
picture in
stand.
the future one. Yeah.
There's all potential, potential for us all to have evolved. And I think all that
Yeah.
issue of things not being quite PC, we would, because it's an open, amazing show, that would all be corrected and we'd be back.
Yeah. I agree.
And you're all up for it as well.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Why wouldn't you then?
You should show this recording to someone else. Someone who will prove
Yeah,
it.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
What do you think, Chris?
There's a brilliant someone called
Mr. Brittas, what do you think?
Sorry.
I think yes. I think it's with a couple of notable exceptions around looking at the screen here. I don't know where they are. I'm sure some of you may know who they are, but where they are.
Working, darling.
Working. Both working. Okay. Working. Gosh. Anyway, yeah, we all, darling. I think they could. I think this show could come back, but I mean, it can't have escaped anyone's notice that getting commissions these days is something of a box-ticking exercise, and we may not tick all the boxes.
We had 13 million viewers. They haven't gone away, darling. They're still there. You don't get 13 million viewers nowadays. There are a million channels, but they're all.
I don't think they're interviewers now, though. I think, as I've just, everything you're saying, the traditional way of commissioning a show, very funny, loads of viewers, let's do that show. They don't necessarily just do that anymore. They consider other things, and I don't think our show quite reaches the level.
Maybe we should do a special.
Yeah, Christmas special. Yeah.
We could sort of do it ourselves online.
Yeah.
We could do it. We could, we could sort of get a camera crew and crowdfund it or whatever, and do it that way.
But also the way the world is at the moment, people want nostalgia, don't they? They want to feel good again. They want to forget about current day and stuff. So,
Chris, what's the other famous show that you do that I don't like to mention?
Sorry?
What's the other famous show that you do, darling? The space one.
Spitting Image?
No, the space one.
Red Dwarf.
Oh, you mean Red Pilot?
Red Dwarf.
Yeah,
Sorry, Red Dwarf.
But that's jumped to Dave, hasn't it?
Yes. Next question.
All right.
Why'd you mention that? I was trying to avoid mentioning that.
Look, it's a wonderful show, and it's still going.
Yes.
Because it's a possibility it could come back.
Red Dwarf was ahead of its time.
And we weren't.
No.
I'm trying to.
We were very much of our time. We were very much of the 90s. We were.
As we said with the boys. And I was a single mother bringing my children to work way before it became an official day in the year. Just saying.
I'm trying to find a message. I'm so sorry. We've had so many messages. Someone's messaged in and saying the Brittas Empire inspired my brother to work in retail. Gordon Brittas was his hero.
Good.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Retail.
Yeah, I know. Not quite. Maybe, down the line.
More.
Story to how my brother became a retail store manager because of Brittas.
It's funny.
Thank you, Anthony.
And it wasn't that different to the show. Well, there you go.
Do you still get?
I always remember that. Go on.
No, go on.
I was just about to say. I always remember the manager of the Ringwood Leisure Centre when we were doing filming there. He always used to sort of skulk about the corridors, watching what we were doing. Sort of, and he one day said to me, things like that do actually happen here. I would say, what? You did an emu bursting into the gymnasium. That sort of thing happens here. He says, "Oh no, but we have all sorts of weird things that go on. I'm just watching to see how you guys deal with it."
I remember once there was a lady. There was a lady with a little child. He must have been about 6, and she was wearing her swimsuit, and he was in his little trunks. And where all the vans used to park around the side, there were some big air vents, big kind of round air vents that used to shoot out. And she came around with him, and she was pulling at the grill that was over the air vent. And somebody said, "What are you doing?" She said, "I want to put him down the water slide to go into the swimming pool." I said, "Well, no, I think it's round the corner." "Oh, thank you very much." And she went off with her flip-flops and the little boy with his...
Hysterical.
Oh,
Did you have much input to the script at the time?
Yeah.
Didn't need it.
it.
Little tweaks and things, or little ideas. You're allowed to be creative.
But otherwise, it's
I
just...
think there were
the
tweaks in the read through, whatever. But I think I always seem to remember that either Richard or Andrew was at the rehearsal, and they would go and rewrite anything that did have to be. But I think I liked, understandably, to get it pretty locked fairly early on, whereas in the other show I do, we're kind of still tweaking it when we're recording it. So it can work. But yeah, Brittas was a different kind of different technique, really. But yeah, I seem to remember we got the script locked quite early on. We could be creative, we could say, "What about this?" and then we thought no.
Yeah.
Or yes. Whatever.
Simon Foe, I don't know if you just saw that. Simon Foe wants to start an online petition. Yeah, a petition to get Brittas back on the BBC as a repeat and try for a new season.
Yes, Simon.
Yay. Thank you, Simon.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
There you go. Or Netflix, they pay well, don't they?
Netflix.
Netflix, definitely.
We'll do that.
Yes.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, what a successful evening that it's become then, all of a sudden. Well, I think, I said Mike's back. Mike keeps, I want to know where Mike keeps going. Disappearing and back.
He's back.
The big question that we need to ask is the ending. Obviously, it was all a dream. It was all Bobby Ewing, wasn't it? How did you all feel about that?
Well, I was a nun, so
Yeah,
that was decided as a nun.
a made-up nun.
You became a bishop, though, didn't you? In the
So
one.
it kind of work, yeah, nun to a bishop work.
I remember we shot that at the Swanage Railway, and I was quite interested in railways, so I was slightly distracted by the whole thing. I was just glad to be on the Swanage Railway and see old locomotives and stuff. Yeah, it was a bit, I don't know, how do you end shows that have been going on for a few seasons? I mean, it's difficult, really. But you can always get out of it. Come back again.
Sorry, this is it's just come in from Thomas Knightley. We're still getting loads of messages on Twitter and Facebook. Thomas says, "What about a lockdown Get Fit with Brittas special?"
Oh yeah,
There you go.
Yes.
To rival Joe Wicks. That's how you do it.
Oh.
Good
We'd
plan.
all end up with broken limbs, though, if it was
Yeah.
Brittas
Yeah.
and Colin.
These days, it'll be a dog walk, and followed by 10 sit-ups and maybe a few sit-ups, and the dumbbells. But I'm pretty limited to that. Plus, maybe the odd round of winter tennis. But yeah, it wouldn't be as energetic. We did get fit with Brittas, didn't we? At one point,
yeah.
I think I did a little.
Yeah.
That was quite interesting.
And then
Hiking
obviously
boots,
there was-
I remember.
The comic relief Word Up with Little Mix, who is it Jade and Leanne from Little Mix were born the year that the Brittas Empire started. There you go. There's
Oh
knowledge
gosh.
you need to know.
Oh dear.
I did a Brittas contribution to a Little Mix sport aid video. That was one of the last times
Yeah,
I
that's
sort
it.
of
Word Up.
yeah.
You did.
So I think the guy who directed it was a fan of the show, and I remember the last scene where everyone goes into the main area of the gym, I just remember feeling dead old, you know. They were always young mix, and all the sort of dancers and everyone was young. And me and a few of the old darts players were sort of the only people above 55, you know, or 50. But it was quite fun. It's always fun to don, you know, as we've seen tonight. So, you know, fingers crossed. Someone might say, let's do some more.
I can't see why they wouldn't. Having just been here tonight and seen the warmth, and you know, I guess this is what it was like 30 years ago, isn't it? Nothing seems to have changed amongst you.
Nothing.
Chemistry's there.
Yeah, I agree.
So well, okay. So I think this is where it starts. Then the hashtag Brittas back is going to happen. So we look forward to seeing you on Netflix.
Yeah.
You're getting paid $5 million an episode. Well done, brilliant.
All thanks to you.
Yes, thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much for being here, and thank you to everyone who's taken part tonight. It's been fantastic. It's been such an honour to be able to spend time with you and to just see the screen reading.
Thank you for bringing us together.
Thanks to Lee, and of course thanks to Danny for working so hard to.
Absolutely.
Danny.
Danny.
Danny, who's from Chris Barrie fans. Lee Wallace, Chris Harding from Emicon as well, who put it over, and Eddie Wolfries, who scored all the technical. So you guys, you've all been brilliant. So thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you in 30 years' time for the next reunion.
No, next year, darling. Next year.
Yes, darling.
The launch of the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Love you, Lord.
Lovely to see you. Bye-bye.